On November 14th, 1961, at exactly 9:47 p.m., everything about the steak said perfection. A 12-ounce ribeye, seared to a flawless medium rare, swimming in garlic butter and kissed with fresh thyme. Clarence had delivered a masterpiece. Its scent alone could soothe a hardened soul. Bumpy Johnson sliced in, lifted the first bite, chewed, then froze. Not because of the flavor was divine. It was what didn't belong, a grit that defied the steak's velvet tenderness, like silk hiding a shard of sand. Bumpy had survived 15 years in federal lockup, where men paid guards $20 to lace meals with crushed glass. He learned the hard way: your tongue becomes your guard dog. Fail to listen, and you bleed inside, dying without ever seeing the blade. Bumpy didn't spit. He didn't flinch. His face remained carved in stone as his mind stitched together survival. He reached for his wine, sipping slow, swishing the liquid around his mouth to guide the danger forward. Then, with elegance, he lifted his napkin, dabbed politely, and tucked the grit-soaked bite into soft cloth, a gentleman's move, hiding an assassin's awareness. He sliced off another piece, lifted it toward his lips, but bit only air. As his fingers slid the steak into his lap napkin, his poise didn't flinch. Somewhere across the private dining room of the Red Rooster Supper Club, someone watched. Someone who had patiently planned for Bumpy Johnson to dine on razor-edged shards that would turn his insides into a battlefield. Bumpy didn't yet know the face behind the betrayal, but he knew this: it wouldn't stay hidden for long. By this time tomorrow, the truth would be in his grasp. So he left the Red Rooster carrying a napkin soaked in danger, an unshaken look on his face, and a silent countdown echoing in his mind. 24 hours. The clock had started. The hunt had begun. At 10:32 p.m., Bumpy's Cadillac eased to a stop in front of the brownstone on 127th Street. Curtis, his young driver, opened the door, and he saw it right away. Something was off. Bumpy wore his usual calm, walked his usual pace, but underneath it, there it was again. That sharp tension Curtis had only seen once before, the night before hell broke loose with Dutch Schultz in 38. "Get Juno," Bumpy said, voice low, "and Nat Pettigrew. I want them here in an hour." Curtis hesitated, searching Bumpy's face. "Everything okay, Mr. Johnson?" Bumpy stopped at the front steps, turned. Light from the street lamp caught his eyes, hard, cold, and Curtis felt a chill down his back. "Someone tried to kill me tonight. At the Red Rooster, in front of a full dining room." Bumpy's voice wasn't loud, but it was ice. "By sunrise, I want to know who, why, and where they're hiding. Clear?" Curtis just nodded, already moving. He was behind the wheel and driving before the front door ever shut. Inside, Mime sat reading in the parlor. She looked up and saw her husband's face, and silently closed her book. "Ellsworth, what happened?" Bumpy placed the napkin gently on the coffee table and peeled it open. Inside, half-chewed beef glistened under the light, laced with saliva and glittering threads of glass. "Ground glass," he said, "in my ribeye." Ma's hand flew to her throat. "Lord have mercy, who? That's what I need to find out." Bumpy sunk into the chair, his body finally showing the toll. Could have been any one of the 12 working that kitchen. Anyone could have prepped the plate. But you got someone in mind. Bumpy didn't answer right away. His eyes stayed on the napkin lying between them, on the bite that nearly ended him. Clarence made it himself, brought it to the table personally, watched me eat. Bumpy let out a long breath. 6 years, every single Thursday. I put my faith in that man, trusted him with my life. And tonight, he might have tried to take it. Maybe. Or maybe someone got to him, or got to someone else in that kitchen. Bumpy shook his head slowly. "That's what I have to figure out. The who, that'll come easy. But the why, that's what matters most." By midnight, the parlor had transformed into a command center. Juno Brown arrived first, 5:33, built like he boxed shadows in his sleep. His eyes carried violence the way old skin carried scars. He'd been Bumpy's right hand since the Dutch Schultz days, held blade, bore bullets, nearly died twice in the name of loyalty. Nat Pettigrew followed 20 minutes later, quiet, lean, forgettable to the untrained eye, perfect for his work. Nat ruled the streets between 130th and 145th, and nothing moved in those blocks without his knowing. Bumpy laid everything bare: steak, glass, survival. "I want every name that clocked into that kitchen tonight," he said. "Cooks, dishwashers, busboys, anyone who touched that plate. Who's been talking to outsiders? Who's got grudges? Who's buried in debt?" Juno cracked his knuckles. "You want me to bring them in?" "Not yet," Bumpy murmured. "First we watch, then we listen." His gaze shifted to Nat, the red rooster who really owns it. Earl Washington, technically, but he's backed with Italian money. Silent partners downtown. Costello's people? Yep, they got him the liquor license back in '54. Bumpy let the name settle in the air. Frank Costello. For years, the man had sniffed around Harlem, searching for weak links in the numbers game. Any moves from Costello's men? Something new? Nat hesitated. "There's a name. Vincent Tagliafiera. They call him Vinny Eyes. He's been up here more than usual. 125, 135, places he doesn't belong. Doing what? Talking, buying drinks, making friends." Nat paused. "Feels like he's building something." Bumpy nodded slowly, letting the idea stitch itself together. Still blurry at the edges, but forming. "Start with the kitchen staff. I want names, addresses, debts, families, everything." By morning, at 6:12 a.m., Nat returned with a thick folder in hand, scribbled notes and street intel spilling from inside. 12 names, 12 lives, 12 chance assassins. Most were clean, no debts, no loyalties owed. Just simple people earning wages in a Harlem kitchen. But 3 names bore asterisks. Marcus Bell, dishwasher. Owed $400 to a shark on 142nd Street. Pressure point. Doy Mae Franklin, Perpet cook. Had a brother in Rikers. Could have been forced. And then there was Clarence Mosley, head chef. 6 years of sterling work. No addictions, no vices, but a ghost trailing behind him. A dead brother. "What's this about?" Bumpy asked, tapping the scribble beside Clarence's name. Nat looked uneasy, shifting in his seat. His younger brother, Delroy Mosley, died in '53. Alley, behind a grocer on Lenox. By who? Silence. Heavy, telling. By who, Nat? Nat didn't speak. He didn't need to. "Juno's boys," Nat finally said. "They were hunting a runner, Samuel Pitts, stole from one of our houses. Delroy matched the look. Wrong kid, wrong place." Nat exhaled. "They figured it out too late, left him in the rain. He died 3 days later. Harlem Hospital." The room stiffened. Bumpy stared at the wall, his jaw clenched like iron. "I never knew." His voice was low. "I was told it was handled," Nat said. "Juno's boys paid for the funeral. Told the family it was a random mugging. But Clarence, if he dug deep enough, he'd have found out," Nat said. "Yeah, eventually, he'd find it." Nat closed the folder gently. 8 years, Bumpy. That's a long time to feed hate. Bumpy stood and walked to the window. Harlem rolled beneath him, gray-skied and still waking. 8 years. Every Thursday. Every flawless plate. Clarence hadn't just been cooking. No. He'd been crafting a blade, sharpening it week by week. Patient, calculated, waiting for the minute, patience and timing aligned. Bumpy never saw it, never even looked for it, didn't know about Delroy. Another body under the weight of empire. One more forgotten casualty until now. "Find Vinny Eyes," Bumpy said. "No contact, just find him. I want to know exactly how he turned Clarence loose on me." Before we go deeper, here's something to think about. If you were in Bumpy's shoes, would you have spared Clarence? Or shut that freezer for good? Some wounds don't heal. Some justice isn't clean. I'd love to hear your take in the comments. And if this story's got you hooked, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. The trail to Vinny Eyes ran cold and crooked through a quiet social club on a 16th. a neighborhood barber shop used to pass messages, and finally a back booth in an East Harlem trattoria, where Vinny twirled linguine like a man with no worries. Nat's crew worked the angles, watched, listened, pieced it together. 5 weeks before the poisoned steak, Vinny approached Clarence outside Mount Olivet Baptist right after Sunday service. 7 minutes of talk, heated. Clarence walked away angry, but Vinny came back. 3 more times, always longer than the last. Then, 2 weeks before the ribeye, Claude met Vinny in a Bronx diner. Neutral ground. Whatever got said in that diner. That was the moment it shifted. That's when Vinny took the old wound, 8 years forgotten, and ripped it wide open. Costello's crew didn't pay Clarence. Didn't have to. They just offered what money couldn't buy, the chance to kill the man who had blood on his brother's memory. Revenge. Pure. Clean. Dangerous. At 2047 that afternoon, Bumpy walked downstairs to the brownstone basement, found Juno cleaning a pistol that hadn't barked in months. "We need to talk about Delroy Mosley." Juno's hands froze. He didn't look up. "That was a long time ago, Bumpy." "Not long enough." Bumpy sank into the chair opposite him. "Tell me what happened. The real story." Juno set the pistol aside. His face carried age and more than years. October 53. Samuel Pitts ripped off one of our stash spots. I sent 2 men to collect. They targeted a kid, white skin, slim gray coat. Beat him in an alley till he talked. Juno's voice fell. But he didn't talk because he wasn't Pitts, and by the time they figured out their mistake, he trailed off. The kid was barely breathing. They panicked. Left him. Morning news said he died at Harlem Hospital. Juno looked at Bumpy for the first time. I handled it. Funeral. Paid off the family. Kept it out the papers. "But you never told me. You were in Atlanta. Federal court. By the time you got back, it was over. I didn't think dragging it up would help." The silence between them pressed the walls inward. "His brother cooked my food for 6 years, Juno," Bumpy said, "and waited. I never knew what he carried. Because you never told me." "I know." Juno's voice cracked at the edge. "An innocent kid died because of our mistake. I've carried that same weight, just on the other side." Bumpy stood, his face unreadable steel. "Clarence is on the move. He knows I survived, knows the glass didn't kill me." He started up the stairs. "We find him tonight. Bring him to the Rooster, the kitchen." They found Clarence at 8:15 p.m. in a dingy rooming house on 143rd Street. He was packing a small suitcase, his hands trembling, his breath uneven. When Juno's men burst in, Clarence didn't run. He didn't scream. He only looked up with hollow eyes and said, "Took you long enough." They brought him back to the Red Rooster, through the quiet back entrance, past the tables, into the heart of the kitchen where he'd built 6 years of his life, and where that life was about to end. 12 kitchen staff lined the walls: Tommy Perkins, the sous chef, Doy Mae Franklin, Marcus Bell, the dishwashers, the prep cooks, the busboys, all of them summoned, all of them silent. They had worked side by side with Clarence, never realizing that fire burned beneath his stillness. Bumpy entered last, footsteps slow, echoing on tile. He stopped 3 feet from Clarence, who stood motionless, hands bound in front of him. For a long second, no one breathed. "You should be dead," Clarence said, flat, empty. "I put enough glass in that steak to carve your guts to ribbons." "I know," Bumpy answered, voice low and steady. "Alcatraz taught me a few things: how to taste what doesn't belong, how to swallow without swallowing." He paused, then added, "You cooked for me 6 years, Clarence, but this dish you plated for yourself." Clarence gave a bitter laugh. "You don't even remember him, do you? Delroy, my kid brother, 19, beaten to death in an alley for wearing the wrong damn coat. I remember now." "Now?" Clarence's voice sliced the air. 8 years too late. After I buried him in a pine box and your man Juno sent $200 like it was supposed to mean something. His eyes gleamed, brimmed with rage and pain. "You took everything from me." The room stayed still. Bumpy didn't move. "I didn't order what happened to him. I didn't even know. Not until yesterday." His voice had dropped, stripped of authority, laid bare. But he died because of my crew, my chaos. That's on me. That's not an excuse, it's a confession. Clarence blinked. This wasn't what he expected. He was innocent. He shouldn't have died, Bumpy continued. And you shouldn't have had to carry that grief alone. But you tried to take my life, Clarence, in my place, at my table, in front of my city. He stepped forward. You think I wouldn't have done the same for my family? Clarence stared at him. You would have, wouldn't you? Maybe, Bumpy said, eyes locked. But I wouldn't have used glass. I'd have used my hands. I'd look the man in the eye and make him know why he was dying. The word came sharp. Coward. Clarence flinched, harder than a punch to the face. Bumpy turned to Juno. Open the freezer. The walk-in freezer loomed at the far end of the kitchen, metal thick, built to preserve silence and meat alike. Juno pulled it open. A blast of frozen air spilled out, curling like fog. Clarence went pale. Bumpy, wait. You made this kitchen your home, Bumpy said, gesturing at the walls, the knives, the burners. But you turned it into a weapon, so now it becomes your lesson. Juno's men grabbed Clarence's arms. He fought, feebly. Not a brawler, just a chef, just a grieving brother. They dragged him toward the freezer's gaping mouth. Please, Bumpy, I'll leave, I'll disappear, you'll never see me again. I know, Bumpy replied, voice slicing through chaos, that they need to see this, so they understand what happens when you aim for the king and miss. Clarence screamed as the cold hit him, stole the breath from his lungs, burned his skin with ice. He turned in the frigid air, wide-eyed, just as Juno began to pull the heavy doors shut. 8 hours, Bumpy said. You'll live, barely. But you're gonna remember. The door slammed sealed. His muffled screams echoed for an hour, then faded into frozen silence. By 6015 the next morning, the freezer opened. Clarence was curled like a broken instrument in the corner. He was alive, but just barely. Lips blue, skin gray, fingers blackened by frostbite, 3 on the left, 2 on the right. The fingers that once crafted beauty on a plate were ruined. Juno's men wrapped him in thick blankets, called a doctor who knew not to ask questions. Bumpy stood over Clarence as the doctor worked. His eyes held no pride, no vengeance, only weight. Deep, cold, honest. You're leaving New York, he said softly. Tonight, don't come back. He leaned closer. If I see you north of Philadelphia, you die. Not in a freezer, in the dirt. Clarence couldn't speak, his teeth chattered too hard. Bumpy reached into his coat, pulled out an envelope, and placed it on Clarence's chest. There's enough in there to start fresh somewhere warm. You'll need it. Clarence's eyes widened with confusion. The cold didn't explain that. I'm not doing this for you, Bumpy said. I'm doing it for Delroy, because I can't bring him back. Can't change what happened, but I can make sure his brother doesn't die in an alley too. He turned toward the door, pausing at the threshold. One more thing. Delroy's grave, the pine box, by the end of the month, there'll be a headstone, marble, his name, his years, and 2 words, remembered always. Bumpy didn't wait for a reply. He walked out. 3 days later, Clarence Mosley boarded a Greyhound heading south, his hands wrapped in gauze. His career over. His revenge, a quiet ruin. He settled in Miami, where the sun was kind to old wounds. Got a job as a dishwasher, the only kitchen duty his body could still handle. Never cooked again. Some nights after closing, when the steam clouded the tiles and silence returned to the kitchen, he'd sit alone and look at his ruined hands, and remember the freezer, the pain, the man who buried him in cold and bought his brother a headstone in the same breath. He never truly understood Bumpy Johnson, never made peace with Delroy's death, or what it cost him to try and avenge it, but he never set foot in New York again. Back in Harlem, the story spread like frost on brick. The chef who tried to kill Bumpy, the glass in the ribeye, the walk-in freezer. By week's end, every kitchen in Harlem knew why their knives didn't dare turn. The message wasn't loud, but it screamed just the same. You might hate Bumpy Johnson, might even dream of watching him fall. But if you swing and miss, you'll spend the rest of your life wearing the mark of that failure, and everyone will know. Vinny Eyes received a package at his favorite social club in East Harlem. Inside, one steak knife, frozen in a block of ice. Just that, and a note, sharp as the blade inside it, written in Bumpy's hand. The kitchen is closed. Stay out of Harlem. Frank Costello's people never came sniffing again. And on the cold morning of December 12th, a crew quietly installed a marble headstone in Woodlawn Cemetery. Elegant, clean, permanent. Delroy Mosley, 1934, remembered always Bumpy, visited once, alone, on a Tuesday when no one paid attention. He stood still for 11 minutes, said nothing. Then he placed a single white rose on the fresh earth and walked away. Revenge doesn't balance the scales. It just adds weight to both sides. But sometimes, just sometimes, you can take a little weight off. Let me know when you're ready for me to write the next episode of the story world. Some stories don't end with a bang. They end with silence, frost, and a name carved in stone. But now it's your turn. Was Bumpy right to spare Clarence, or should that freezer door have stayed shut? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. And if this story hit you deep, go ahead and tap like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. There's more where this came from.